through the eyes of those who lived it.
Only 9 players, Tommy, in history have hit as many as 50.
Some might object to the term saved, but there's no debating the summer of 1998 brought star power to baseball, which the game hadn't seen since its golden age. You didn't have to be a baseball nerd to know Mark McGwire was doing something unparalleled in the history of American sport. It was a race to 62, but in just the 4th season since a strike canceled the World Series, the result went far beyond the record.
People came back to the ballpark because of Mark McGwire. It certainly happened here in St. Louis. And a lot of our younger fans don't realize there was a strike that wiped out the World Series. And so baseball was trying any way to get fans to come back and be engaged in the game.
McGwire and Sammy Sosa slugged to claim the single-season home run record, which had stood for nearly 40 years, and even batting practice was must-see. Dan McLaughlin was doing pregame features for Cardinals TV in '98. One of his stories was on BP and McGwire's personal pitcher, Dave McKay.
I remember talking to Dave, and I said, what is it like throwing to Mark McGwire? He said, it's pressure. He said, we got 20,000 people here waiting to see him knock it out of the ballpark, and if I'm off one day and not throwing good BP to where he likes it, they're not going to see what they came to see, which is to see him put it in the upper deck and reach parts of Busch Stadium 2 that have never been reached before. So Dave McKay talked about that being pressure, of being a batting practice pitcher, which should be no pressure, and yet he felt the pressure of pitching to Mark McGwire.
Only a decade earlier, the Cardinals had hit just 71 home runs as a team. McGwire hit 70 as an individual. John Vooch used to measure the homers at Busch, and it wasn't just the number, but the sheer distances which impressed. None more so than McGwire's longest, May 16, 1998.
Where's this one going?
I had been doing the home run distance measuring since they started the program back in 88 or 89, and you know, the ball you hit to center, I mean, there weren't a lot of home runs hit to center in the first place, but this ball, when it hit, none of us were exactly sure where it hit. Some people thought, oh, it just kind of dropped into the center field backdrop, and I thought I had seen it ricochet off the sign up above, but people were like, no, there's no way it hit up there, and it's like, well, I don't know. And so we rather than announce a distance right away, we kind of had to research it in game, and so we dispatched the people out to the party room up there out in center field. We actually had somebody call down to the bullpen, and everybody kind of confirmed that, yeah, it did hit the sign up above center field. And so, once we did that, then we had to kind of, take the chart out and do some measuring, and we ended up at 545 feet.
McGwire's not the only one who put up impressive numbers that summer. The appetite for Big Mac souvenirs was quite fierce. At one point, up to 25% of all merchandise being sold had to do with McGwire. And in the lead-up to historic number 62, it was Vicki Bryant who was tasked with getting the approval of both McGwire and his agent, Jim Milner, on all number 62 designs.
It was a hat that had the 62 graphic on it, and on the back of it was embroidered the date, 9/8/98. And Mark looked at he says, yeah, it's cool. And he turned around and he looked at the back and he said, 9/8/98. I like that number. He said, you might want to keep that hat. And on that night, I saw Jim outside the clubhouse walking in the corridor, and he had this huge grin on his face. And he walked over to me and he grabbed me and he whispered in my ear, I just talked to Mark. Tonight's the night.
Down the left field line, is it enough? Gone!
I ran out onto the concourse and where I could see above a couple of souvenir stands. And it was like nothing I'd ever seen. It was like piranhas in a feeding frenzy. People had fists full of money. They were holding it up. It was almost like watching the floor on Wall Street of traders with their in a frenzy. And they were, I'll take 10 of everything. I'll take 10 of everything.
The team grossed $1 million in souvenirs that night, an MLB record. Flashbulbs and the 70 moments they captured. It was a summer unlike any other. A summer which captured a new generation of baseball fans and put St. Louis at the center of their curiosity. For Cardinals Insider, I'm Brett McMillan.